Shalom to YouTube. Let's start to Kingdom Builders group. Hold on, let's see. Good question. Yep, Leviticus 12.
143.
Shalom, shalom. Alright, so let's get this started right here. Shalom, shalom. Okay, shalom, shalom. So we're live on both Facebook groups, the EMC and Kingdom Builders. Let's get the camera there. Alright, you can see Brother VA, you can see me, the focus is not on me. Shabbat shalom to everyone. Hope everyone had a good and blessed week. So far, what I heard, pretty okay.
You're still breathing?
Right. Right.
I did.
You know, here we have a laid back, pretty much congregation fellowship group, of course, right? I know out here in Sacramento, California, it's pretty warm. It's pretty warm, and excuse us, of course, you know, we're eating, fellowshipping.
Building the name of the Most High.
Right, building. Shalom. Shalom, Sister Zena. Shalom, Sister Kirsten. Alright. What we've been doing is reading through the Torah portions of the Parashahs. Right now we're on Leviticus 12, starting at verse 1. It's called the She Will Conceive, Tazria, and the Leper, Nesor. And what we do is go through the Torah portion, which is this week is Leviticus, and then the half Torah, which is the prophet that goes up with it. And then we read the gospel portion. So we try to get the parallels, but we read all the way through, and then we go back and bring up anything that we were enlightened on, or we have questions about, or we want to discuss. We want to kind of take a selah, meditate on. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the Shema. I'll read it in the Hebrew, and then I'll translate. And then we'll get into a word of prayer. And then we'll start. So the Shema is in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verses 4 to 6. And it reads, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Ve'ahavta et Yahweh Elohecha b'chol lebabecha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מסawech hayom al lebabecha. That is, hear and obey, Israel. Yahweh, our Elohim, our power, our deity. Yahweh is one in complex unity. You shall love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your strength. And these words that I am commanding you today are to be on your heart. May Yahweh bless us with the reading hearers, and especially doers of His word.
Amen. About the action.
Hallelujah.
Believe the words and watch the works.
Watch the words. Hallelujah. So we'll do a word of prayer. All right.
Heavenly Father, we come to you in the name of Yeshua the Christ and say thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you, Heavenly Father, for bringing us all together. We thank you for having our elder Al back at the fellowship with us. We thank you for bringing him home safely to his family.
Yes.
Heavenly Father, we praise you and we thank you that we be edified by your word today.
Yes.
We pray that your spirit moves upon us and
Yes.
your will be done. You know, when two or more witnesses, that you are in the presence.
Hallelujah.
And we pray that your presence remain here amongst us as we build for those here and for those online watching.
Yes.
For those who may watch this in the recorded archive later on.
Yes.
We ask and pray in the name of Yeshua, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Man. Before we get into reading, anybody got any comments, anything that stood out while we were reading this as individuals throughout the week? Anything that's special or pertaining to their individual walk as a human being, living life? Anybody?
Not right now, but I will have something to say, of course.
I just wanted to fill in the ice.
Oh, we good. He said filling the ice. All right. So Leviticus 12, and of course we love everyone's participation in reading. So, Tazriah Shikhi. Leviticus 12, verses 1 through, 15? 24, something like that. Mm-hmm.
I'm reading. I have a Greek Septuagint, so it probably not be best for me to read. I might complete Jewish copy on me.
Well, I'll hand you this, if you want to read sometimes. Okay, well, I'll start it off. So it's Leviticus chapters 12, starting at verses 1 all the way to 15 to verses 32. All right? And it says, Adonai said to Moshe, tell the people of Israel, if a woman conceives and gives birth to a boy, she will be unclean 7 days, with the same uncleanness as in Nida, or her separation, her menstrual cycle, right? When she is having her menstrual period. On the 8th day, the baby's foreskin is to be circumcised. She is to wait an additional 33 days to be purified from her blood. She is not to touch any holy thing or come into the sanctuary until the time of her purification is over. But if she gives birth to a girl, she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her nidah, and she is to wait another 60 days to be purified from her blood. When the days of her purification are over, whether for a son or for a daughter, she is to bring a lamb in its first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or dove for a sin offering to the entrance of the tent of meeting to the Kohen, or the priest. He will offer it before Adonai and make atonement for her. Thus she will be purified from her discharge of blood. Such is the law for a woman who gives birth, whether to a boy or to a girl. If she cannot afford a lamb, she is to take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, the one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. The Kohen will make atonement for her, and she will be clean. All right. Anyone want to read starting at chapter 13 of Leviticus? Verse 1.
Well, you should go. You got the. You say you got the CJV?
Yeah.
You should go to where you see the 2 little eyes and bold letters right there?
Yeah.
Okay, that signifies this.
Oh, you saying read from the end? Okay.
You get to
Okay.
those that little part.
Okay. So done. All right. I'll continue. Leviticus 13, so this is a continuation. Starting at verse 1. And said to Moshe, Adonai said to Moshe and Aharon, if someone develops on his skin a swelling, scab, or bright spot, which could develop into the disease of Zaraat, he is to be brought to Aharon, the Kohen, or to one of his sons who are Kohanim. The Kohen is to examine the sore on his skin. If the hair in the sore has turned white, and the sore appears to go deep into the skin, it is zara'at. And after examining him, the Kohen is to declare him unclean. If the bright spot on his skin is white, but it does not appear to go deep into the skin, and its hair has not turned white, then the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. On the seventh day, the Kohen is to examine him again, and if the sore appears the same as before and has not spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 more days. Mm-hmm. You want to pick it up? Okay. Right there.
6.
Mm-hmm.
On the 7th day, the Kohen is to examine him again, and if the sore has faded and has a spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to declare him clean. It is only a scab, so he is to wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads further on the skin after he has been examined by the Kohen, he declared clean. He is not let him. I'm sorry. He is to let himself be examined yet again by the Kohen. The Kohen will examine him, and if he sees the scab has spread on his skin, then the Kohen will declare him unclean. It is Tazarat.
Zara'at. Yep.
Excuse my
No,
Hebrew.
you good.
If a person has Tazarat, he is to be brought to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine him, and if he is, and if he sees that there is a white swelling on the skin, which has turned the hair white and inflamed flesh into swelling, then it is a chronic tazat on his skin, and the Kohen is to declare him unclean. He is not to isolate him, because it is already clear that he is unclean. If the tazat breaks out all over the skin, so that as far as the Kohen can see, the person with tazat has sores everywhere on his body, from his head to his feet, then the Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that the tazat has covered his entire body, he is to pronounce the person with the sores clean. It has all turned white, and he is clean. But if one day inflamed flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. The Kohen will examine the inflamed flesh and declare him unclean. The inflamed flesh is unclean. It is tazarat. However, if the inflamed flesh again turns white, he is to come to the Kohen. The Kohen will examine him, and if he sees that the sores have turned white, then the Kohen is to declare clean the person with the sores. He is clean. Okay. Yeah, everybody else will pick up. Let me keep going.
The person has on his skin and boil a heel, 18, in such a way that in place of boil there is a white swelling or a reddish white bright spot. It is to be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine it. If he sees that it appears more than skin deep, and its hair has turned white, the Kohen is to pronounce him unclean. The disease of Zarat has broken out in boil. But if the Kohen looks at it and doesn't see any white hairs in it, and it isn't more than skin deep but appears faded, the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. If it spreads on the skin, the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is the disease. But if the bright spot stays where it was and has not spread, it is the scar of the boil, and the Kohen is to declare him clean. Can you read it? Or someone has on the skin a burn caused by fire, and the inflamed flesh with burn has become a bright spot, reddish, white, or white. Then the Kohen is to examine it, and if he sees that the hair and the bright spot has turned white, and that it appears to be deeper than the skin around it, it is zarat. it has broken out in the burn, and the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a sore from Zara'at. But if the Kohen examines it and sees no white hair in the bright spot, and if it is no more than skin deep, but looks faded, the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. On the seventh day, the Kohen is to examine him. If it has spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a sore from Zara'at. But if the bright spot stays where it was and has not spread on the skin, but appears faded, it is a swelling due to the burn, and the Kohen is to declare him clean, because it is only a scar from the burn.
Verse 29. If a man or woman has a sore on the head or a man in his beard, then the Kohen examines the sore. If he sees that it appears to be deeper than the skin around it, with yellow thin hair in it, then the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a crusted area. At the head or beard. If the Kohen examines the disease-crusted area and sees that it appears not to be deeper than the skin around it, and without any black hair in it, then the Kohen is isolated for 7 days, the person with the disease-crusted area. On the seventh day, the Kohen is examine the sore, and if he sees that the crusted area has a spread, that it has no yellow hair in it, and that the crusted area is not deeper than the skin around it, then the person is to be shaved, except for the crusted area itself. And the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 more days. On the seventh day, the Kohen is to examine the crusted area, and if he sees that the crusted area has not spread on the skin and does not appear deeper than the skin around it, then the Kohen is declared him clean. He is to wash his clothes and be clean. But if the crusted area spreads after his purification, then the Kohen is examined, and if he sees that the crusted area has spread on the skin, the Kohen is not to look for yellow hair. He is clean. But if the crusted area's appearance doesn't change, and black hair grows up in it, then the crusted area is healed. He is clean, and the Kohen is declared him clean. If a man or woman has bright spots on their skin, bright white spots, then the Kohen is to examine him. If he sees that the bright spots on the skin are dull white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. He is clean. If a man's hair has fallen from the scalp, he is bald, but he is clean. If his hair has fallen off the front part of his head, he is forehead bald. I know Torch will go back to that. He is clean. But if on the bald scalp or forehead there is reddish white sore, it is Zara'at breaking out on his bald scalp or forehead. Then the Kohen is examining him. He sees that there is a reddish white swelling on his bald scalp or forehead, appearing like Zara'at on the rest of the body. He is a person with Zara'at. He is unclean. The Kohen must declare him unclean. The sword is on his head. Everyone who has Zara'at sores is to wear torn clothes and unbound hair cover his upper lip and cry, unclean, unclean. Let a brother know.
Right.
As long as he has sores, he will be unclean. Since he is unclean, he must live in isolation. He must live outside the camp.
Come on, outside the camp.
Zara'at infects an article of clothing, whether it be woolen or linen garment, on the threads or the woven end parts of either linen wool or on a hide or item made of leather. Then if the stain on the garment, hide, thread, woven end parts, or leather, or leather item is greenish or reddish, it is an infection of Zara'at, and is to be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine the stain and isolate the article that has the infection for 7 days. On the seventh day, he is to examine the stain. The stain has spread on the garment, threads, woven in part, or leather. Whatever is used, the infection is contagious. The garment is unclean. He is to burn the garment, woven in parts of either wool or linen or of the leather, having the infection. For it is a contagious daughter. It must be burned up completely. But if when the Kohen examines it, he sees that the infection has not spread on the garment or is woven part of another item, then the Kohen is to order that the article having the infection be washed and isolated for 7 more days.
How we have
It's by the Kohen is to examine it.
excuse me, after the stain has been washed, and if he sees that the stain has not changed color, then even though the stain has not spread, it's unclean. You have to burn it up completely. It is rotten no matter where the spot is on the outside or the inside. If the Kohen examines it and sees that
the stain is faded after being washed,
to tear the stain out of the garment, threads or woven in parts. If it
appears again in the garment, threads woven in parts or leather item,
it is contagious, and you ought to burn it completely, the article that had the stain. But if the infection is gone from the garment, threads, woven parts, or leather items that you wash, then it's to be washed the second time, and it will be
clean. This is the law concerning infection.
a zarah in a garment,
wool of linen, or in the threads of a woven in parts, or many leather items.
and to declare it clean, and when to declare it
unclean.
Okay.
All right. So actually, two parashahs in one. So we do go into Mezorah, person afflicted with Zara'at, starting at Leviticus 14:1 to Leviticus 15:33. I'll pick it up.
Are you? I mean, I can take it.
Okay.
All right. So, Adonai said to Moshe, this is to be the law concerning the person afflicted with Zara.
Say it, you good. There you go.
On the day of purification, he's to be brought to the Kohen, and the Kohen is to go outside the camp and examine him there. He sees that the sores have been healed in the afflicted person, and the Kohen will order that 2 living clean birds be taken for the one to be purified, along with cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop leaf. The Kohen is to order one of the birds slaughtered in a clay pot over running water. As for the white bird, he is to take it to the cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop, and dip them, and the living bird in the blood of the bird slaughtered over running water, and sprinkle the person to be purified from the Sa'arat 7 times. Next he is to set the live bird free in the open field. He who is to be purified must wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe himself in water. Then he will be clean. And after that, he may enter the camp, but he must live outside his tent for 7 days. On the 7th day, he is to shave all the hair off his head, and his beard and eyebrows. He must shave off all his hair, and he is to wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day, he is to take 2 male lambs without defect, 1 female lamb in its first year without defect, and 6.5 quarts of fine flour, or a grain offering, mixed with olive oil, and 2/3 of a pint of oil. The Kohen purifying him is to place the person being purified with these items before Adonai. And the entrance of the tent of meeting, the Kohen is to take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering with the 2/3 pint of oil, and wave them as a wave offering before Adonai.
Hallelujah.
Okay.
I keep going.
That's it.
I'll pick it up.
No, what number is it off on?
Oh, 13. We're in this complete Jewish. You there, Torch? You want my scriptures? If you want to read.
13, 14, 13.
Yeah.
He is slaughtered a male lamb at the place
in the sanctuary for slaughtering sin offerings,
Birth offering is the same version?
No, I was gonna give you my complete Jewish. That's where we're reading from. Oh, it's the same. Okay. Apologize.
He is the slaughter of the male lamb at the place in the place for slaughter and sin offering and burnt offering, because the guilt offerings belong to the Kohen, just like the sin offering. It is especially holy. The Kohen is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of the person being purified, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Next, the Kohen is to take some of the 2/3 pint of olive oil and pour it into the palm of his own left hand. Dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand and sprinkle from the oil with his fingers 7 times before Adonai. Then the Kohen is to put some of the remaining oil in his hand on the tip of the right ear of the person being purified, on the thumb of his right hand, on the big toe of his right foot, and on the blood of the guilt offering. Finally, the Kohen is to put the rest of the oil in his hand on the head of the person purified. The Kohen will make atonement for him before Adonai. The Kohen is to offer the sin offering and make atonement for the person being purified because of his uncleanness. Afterwards, he is to slaughter the burnt offering. The Kohen is to offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. Thus, the Kohen will make atonement for him, and he will be clean.
Yeah. All right. Leviticus 14, pick it up at verse 21. If he is poor, so that he can't afford to do otherwise, he is to take one male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved, to make atonement for him, 2 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, 2/3 of a pint of olive oil, and 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, such as he can afford, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. On the 8th day, he will bring them to the Kohen for his purification to the entrance of the tent of meeting before Adonai. The Kohen is to take the lamb of the guilt offering and the 2/3 of a pint of olive oil and wave them as a wave offering before Adonai. He is to slaughter the lamb of the guilt offering, and the Kohen is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of the person being purified, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The Kohen is to take some of the olive oil and pour it into the palm of his own left hand, and sprinkle with his right hand some of the oil that is in his left hand and 7 times before Adonai. The Kohen is to put some of the oil in his hand on the tip of the right ear of the person being purified, on the thumb of his right hand, on the big toe of his right foot, in the same place as the blood of the guilt offering. Finally, the Kohen is to put the rest of the oil in his hand on the head of the person being purified to make atonement for him before Adonai. He is to offer one of the doves or young pigeons, such as the person can afford, whatever his means suffice for. The one as a sin offering, and the other as a burnt offering, with the grain offering. Thus the Kohen will make atonement before Adonai for the person being purified. Such is the law for the person who has Zara'at source, if he cannot afford the usual elements used for his purification. Mm-hmm.
33. Adonai said to Moses and Aaron, when you have entered the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, and I put an affection of Tezarat in a house in the land that you possess, then the owner of the house is to come and tell the priest or the Kohen, it seems to me that there may be an infection in the house. The Kohen is to order the house empty before he goes in to inspect the infection, so that everything in the house won't be made unclean afterwards. The Kohen is to enter and inspect the house. He will examine the infection, and he will see that the infection is in the walls of the house with greenish or reddish depressions that seem to go deeper than the surface of the wall. He is to go out of the house to its door and seal up the house for 7 days. The Kohen will come again on the 7th day and examine the house. If he sees that the infection has spread over the walls, he is to order them to remove the infected stones and throw them into the unclean place outside the city. Contaminate nothing. Get rid of it. Cut it out. Next, he is to have the inside of the house thoroughly scraped, and scraped off plaster is to be discarded outside the city in an unclean place. Finally, other stones must be set in the place of the first stone, and other plasters used to replaster the house. And if the infection returns and breaks out in the house after the stones have been removed and the house scraped and plastered, then the Kohen or the priest is to enter and examine it. If he sees that the infection has spread in the house, it is a contagious tesseract. In the house it is unclean. He must break down the house and take its stones, timber, and plaster out of the city to an unclean place. Moreover, whosoever enters the house at any time while it is sealed up will be unclean until the evening. Whoever lies down or eats in the house must wash his clothes. If the priest enters and examines and sees that the infection has not spread in the house since it was plastered, then he is to declare the house clean because the infection is cured. Keep going. To purify the house, he is to take 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet, yarn, and hyssop leaves. He is to slaughter one of the birds in a clay pot over running water. He is to take the cedar wood, and the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and the live bird, and dip them in the blood of the slaughter bird. Dip them in the blood of the slaughter bird and the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He will purify the house with the blood of the bird, the running water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. But he is to set the live bird free outside the city in an open field. Thus he will make atonement for the house and will be clean.
Such is the law for all kinds of sores, for a crusted area, for Zara, in a garment, for a house, for a swelling, for a scab, and for a bright spot, to determine when it is clean and when it is unclean. This is the law concerning Zara. Adonai said to Moshe and Aaron, tell the people of Israel, when any man has a discharge from his body, the discharge is unclean. The discharge is unclean. The discharge is unclean no matter whether it continues flowing or has stopped. It is still his uncleanness. Every bed which the person with the discharge lies on is unclean, and everything he sits on is unclean. Whoever touches his bed is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Whoever sits on anything the person with the discharge hat on is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Anyone who touches the body of the person with the discharge is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. If the person with the discharge spits on someone who is unclean, who is clean, the latter is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Any saddle that the person with the discharge rides on will be unclean. Whoever touches anything that was under him will be unclean until evening. He who carries those things is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. If a person with the discharge fails to rinse his hands in water before touching someone, that person is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. If the person with the discharge touches a clay pot, it must be broken. If he touches a wooden utensil, it must be rinsed in water. When a person with a discharge has become free of it, he is to count 7 days for his purification. Then he is to wash his clothes and bathe his body in running water. After that, he will be clean. On the 8th day, he is to take for himself 2 doves and 2 pigeons. Come before Adonai to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the Kohen. The Kohen is to offer them, the one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. Thus the Kohen will make atonement for him on account of his discharge before Adonai.
Verse 16. If a man has a seminal mission, he is to bathe his entire body in water. He will be unclean until evening. Any clothing or leather in which there is any semen
is to be washed with water. It will
It
be
will be
unclean
unclean
until
until
evening.
evening.
If a
If
man goes to bed with a woman
and has sexual relations, both are to bathe themselves in water.
they will be unclean until evening. If a woman has a discharge, and the discharge from her body is blood, she will be in her state of niddah, menstrual, for 7 days. Whoever touches her will be unclean until evening. Everything
she lies on and sits on
in her
in her
state
state
of
of
niddah
niddah
will be
will be
unclean.
unclean.
Her
Her
bed is
bed
to
is to
wash
wash
his
his
clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Whoever touches anything she sits on is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. As soon as he touches
the bed of something or something that she sat on,
he will
he
be
will be
unclean
unclean
until
until
evening.
evening.
If a
If a
man
man
goes to bed with her,
with her
and her
and her
menstrual
menstrual
flows touches him, he will be unclean 7 days, and every bed he lies on will be unclean. If a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, not during her period, or if her discharge
lasts beyond the normal end of her period,
then
then
throughout the time she is having an unclean discharge, she will be as when she is in niddah. She is
she is
unclean.
unclean.
Every bed
Every bed she lies on at any time while she is having her discharge
will be for her like the bed she uses during the time of niddah. And everything she sits on will be unclean with uncleanness like that of her time of niddah. Whoever touches those things will be unclean. He is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. If she has become free of her discharge, she is to count 7 days after that. She will be clean. On the eighth day, she is to take for herself 2 doves or 2 young pigeons
and bring them to the Kohen at the entrance of the tent of meeting.
The Kohen is to offer the
one as a sin offering and the other burnt offering as a burnt offering.
Thus the Kohen will make atonement for her before Adonai on account of her unclean discharge. In this way,
you will separate the people of Israel from their uncleanness,
so that they will not die in the state of uncleanness for defiling my tabernacle,
which is there with them. Such is a law of the person who
has a discharge
for a man who has a similar mission
that makes him unclean, for a woman in niddah during her
menstrual period, for the person, man or woman,
with a discharge, and for the man who has
sexual relations with a woman who was unclean.
Hallelujah.
Okay, one thing you see right there where it says
Nothing.
that person who's reading, when that comes up, that's the person who should go into the
Haftorah.
prophets.
So that would be brother.
Yeah, so we're gonna go back and read the other Haftorah.
We're gonna read. Yeah, let's read the other Haftorah in this one, right? Yeah.
That's on page 451.
217.
Page 451. And then she wanted to do both of them. The other one is 720.
This is the fourth chapter.
I do 720.
What's the first one?
442, 17.
Through 5.
So, okay. So we're gonna start at verse 42 of 2 Kings chapter 4.
chapter 4, verse 42.
Yeah.
So, 42. A man came from Baal, Salashah, bringing the man of God 20 loaves of bread, made from the first years of grain in his sack. Elisha said, "Give this to the people to eat." His servant said, "How am I to serve this to 100 men?" But he said, "Give it to the people to eat." For Adonai says that they will eat and have some left over.
So we served them, and they ate and had some left over, as Nat said. Naaman, commander of the king of Aram's army, was highly respected and esteemed by his master, because through him Adonai had brought victory over Aram. But although he was a brave warrior, he also suffered from Zara.
Second Kings,
Chapter 5. So verse 2. Now on one of their raids into Israel's territory, Aram carried away captive a little girl who became a servant of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, I wish my Lord could go to the prophet in Shalom. He could heal his Zara. Naaman went in and told his Lord, the girl from the land of Israel said such and such. The king of Aram said, Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. He set out, taking with him 60 pounds of silver, 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of clothes. He brought the king of Israel the letter, which said, When this letter reaches you, you will see that I have sent my servant Naaman to you, so that you can heal his Zara. When the king of Israel finished reading the letter, he tore his clothes. Am I God, able to kill and make alive? He asked. So that he sends me a man to heal Zara? You can see that he was only seeking an excuse to quarrel with me. But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent a message to the king. Why did you tear your clothes? Just have him come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to him. He said, Go and bathe in the Jordan 7 times. Your skin will become as it was, and you will be clean. But Naaman became angry and left, saying, I found something. Here now, I thought for certain that he would come out person. That he would stand, call on the name of Adonai as God, wave his hand over the diseased place, and thus heal the person with Zara. Aren't Amanah and Parthar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the water of Israel? Why can't I bathe in them and be clean? So he turned and went off in rage, but his servants approached him and said, My father, if the prophet had asked you to do something really difficult, wouldn't you have done it? So doesn't it make even more sense to do what he says when it's only bathe and be clean? So he went down and immersed himself 7 times in the Jordan, as the man of God had said to do. And his skin was restored and became like the skin of a child, and he became clean. That was it.
Yep. That was it. Okay, and then it's 2 Kings chapter 7, right?
Right.
Yeah.
7. What was the first?
Verses 3 to 20.
3 through 20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It should be 3 to the end of the chapter.
Okay.
45.
I'll read it. Oh, sure. Okay. My bad. My bad.
I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay. Verse 3.
Now there were 4 men who were at the entrance of the city gate, and they said to each other, Why should we sit here till we die? If we say we enter the city, then the city has been struck by famine, so we'll die there. And if we sit here, we also die. So let's go and surrender to the army of Aram. If they spare our lives, we will live, and if they kill us,
we only die. They got up during
twilight to go to the camp of Aram. But when they reached the outskirts of the camp of Aram, they saw no one. For
Adonai had caused the army of Aram to hear the sounds of chariots and horses. It sounded like a huge army. And they said to each other, King of Israel must have hired king
of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to attack us. So they jumped up and fled in the twilight, leaving their tent, horses, donkeys, and the whole camp
just as it was, and ran for their lives. When these men
with Zara reached the outskirts of the camp, they
entered one of the tents, ate and drank.
Then took some silver, gold, and clothing and went and hid it.
Excuse me. Next, they returned and entered
another tent, took stuff from there and went and hid it. But finally they said to each other, what are we doing? What we are doing is wrong. At a time of good news like this, we shouldn't keep it to ourselves. If we wait till evening till morning,
if we wait even till morning, we will earn punishment.
So come on, let's go tell the king's household. So they came and shouted to the gatekeepers of the city and told them the news. We went to the camp of Ron, no one was there, no human voice,
just a horse and a donkey tied up, and the
tent left in place. The gatekeepers called and told it to the king's household inside. Then the king got up in the night. He said to his servants, I'll tell you what Aram has done to us. They know we're hungry. So they're going outside
the camp and hidden in the countryside, saying, when they come out of the city, we'll take them alive and get inside the city. One of the servants answered, I suggest letting some men take 5 of the remaining horses that are left in the city.
Excuse me. They're like everything else in Israel that remains.
Like everything else in Israel practically finished.
And we're sinning. So they took 2 chariot horses, and the king sent out the army around saying, go and see. They went after them all the way to the yard and found the entire district strewn with clothes and other articles Aram had thrown away in their haste. The messengers returned and told the king. Then the people went out and ransacked the camp of Aram. The result that 6 quarts of fine flour was sold for only a shekel, and a half bushel of barley for a shekel, and keep it with what Adonai said. That it? That was the 660.
Yeah, go down
20. The king put the servant, excuse me, on whose arm he had leaned in charge of the gate,
and the people trampled him down in the gate where
he died. As the man of Yah said he would, who spoke when the king came to him. For the man of Yah had said to the king, tomorrow by this time 6 quarts of barley would sell for only a shekel, and half a bushel of fine flour for a shekel in the market at the gate of Shammah. The servant had answered the man of God, Yah, why? This couldn't happen even if Adonai made windows in heaven. And Elijah said, all right, you yourself will see it with your own eyes, but you won't eat any of it.
That is exactly what happened to him, because the people trampled him down.
And because the people trampled him down in the gate, so that he died.
Oh my God.
People fail to realize these are human beings. People make mistakes. People make choices. It's just, it reflects. Nothing changes. It's like us today. Crazy.
Okay.
All right. You guys want to go into some of the gospel portion?
Probably some of it.
We have let's see. Oh. And then we'll go back. Okay. I know Fruits of Zion had Luke chapter 2 and Mark chapter 1, but it's a little bit different from what the complete Jewish has. So
it was only Luke, right?
From the Fruits of Zion. Yeah. But here it says, you can read either Mark 7, 1 to 23, Acts 5, Acts 10, 2 Corinthians 6, Galatians 2, or 1 Peter 1, for she conceived.
Definitely first Peter.
First Peter.
Pick whichever one you want. Definitely first Peter.
Let's go to that. 1 Peter Chapter 1, verses 14 to 16. Peter be going in. Okay.
First Peter.
Yeah, First Peter, chapter 1, verses, what they say?
14 through 16.
14 to 16.
Okay, I think I know what this is.
So I guess you should
Start at 13.
do 16.
Oh, sorry. Who's reading?
First Peter, 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, get your minds ready for work.
Keep yourselves under control, and fix your hopes fully on the gift you will receive when Yeshua the Messiah is revealed. As people who obey God, do not let yourselves be shaped by the evil desires you used to have when you were still ignorant. On the contrary,
Following the Holy One who called you, become holy yourselves
in your
entire way of life.
since the Tanakh says, you are to be holy because I am holy.
Right.
Okay.
Keep going.
Flip over to
That's it.
flip over to 2 right quick.
Verse,
Yeah.
First Peter chapter 2. And go ahead and read 20, 23 if you don't mind. 23 through 25.
When he was insulted, he didn't retaliate with insults. When he
He suffered, he didn't threaten, but handed them over
to him who judges justly.
Mm.
He himself bore our sins
Mm-hmm.
in his body on the stake,
Yeah.
so that we might die to sins and live
for righteousness.
Mhm.
By his wounds
you were healed.
Mm-hmm.
For you used to be like sheep gone astray, but now you have turned to the shepherd
who watches over you.
Yep. We reading anymore? From the. Huh?
You still say?
Well, I wanted to read anymore, but that was fine.
Well,
Let's just do the Luke portion.
So Luke chapter 2. Okay. So that's
22.
yeah. So it's, yes, 22 to 35.
2, not 22. 2, 22.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Luke chapter 2, verses 22 to 35 says, when the time came for their purification according to the Torah of Moshe, they took him up to Jerusalem to present him to Adonai, as it is written in the Torah of Adonai. Every firstborn male is to be consecrated to Adonai, and also to offer a sacrifice of a pair of doves or 2 young pigeons as required by the Torah of Adonai. There was in Jerusalem a man named Shimon. This man was a Zadik, a righteous one. He was devout. He waited eagerly for God to comfort Israel, and the Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit, was upon him. It had been revealed to him by Ruach HaKodesh that he would not die before he had seen the Messiah of Adonai. Prompted by the Spirit, he went into the temple courts, and when the parents brought in the child Yeshua to do for him what the Torah required, Shimon took him in his arms and made bracha to God and said, a blessing. Now Adonai, according to your word, your servant is at peace as you let him go, for I have seen with my own eyes your Yeshua, which you prepared in the presence of all the peoples. A light that will bring revelation to the Gentiles and glory to your people Israel. Yeshua's father and mother were marveling at the things Shimon was saying about him. Shimon blessed them and said to the child's mother Miriam, this child will cause many in Israel to fall and to rise. He will become a son whom people will speak against. Moreover, a sword will pierce your own heart too. All this will happen in order to reveal many people's inmost thoughts. I mean, she conceives. Anybody want to bring out their thoughts before I bring out mine? Because this is crazy. It's all the way starting back to Leviticus 12.
When you read them like that, it's like, what was the transition from when we were reading the Torah portion in Leviticus? So we were talking about leprosy.
Yes.
And then we come in here and say, so now what are we talking about?
Now we come in the Gospels?
Yeah. So what's the connection?
Okay, hold it.
Yeah, good
I
question.
have a question first.
Yes.
Do we understand why we go around reading? Why everybody reads?
I do.
Okay, why?
Not only to have everybody participate, but the spirit of the Most High, He imparts on each of us a little bit, and we come together like we're doing now, and put that together. And where the spirit of the Father is, there's that connection there. There's manifestation.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Luke 4, we won't have to go there, but Luke 4 tells us that was the way they did it. So Yeshua got up. It talks about when Yeshua got up and read from Yeshayahu. Mm-hmm. The scriptures fulfilled before he just stayed.
Hallelujah.
Okay. So basically, they would go around. They would actually get up and go to the podium, and each person would read. The last person would go ahead.
Please continue. But I just want to ask a question.
Okay. When they got to the last person was given the opportunity to expound. You can go to Acts 8, I believe, and they did it with Shaul. They did it with Paul. Paul got a chance to get up. Then they come into 1 Corinthians 12, where Shaul says, if any person have a prophecy, tongue, interpretation of tongue, whatever, then allow them to do it when you come together. So that's kind of the gist of how they did it. They didn't get away from the Torah tradition. Everybody got opportunity to read because they believe when you read it, it convicts you.
Hallelujah.
We talk to everybody else, but we still have to give account for ourselves first. Come on. You read it first. When you read it, you breathe it, and it convicts you.
Hallelujah.
So then, once we talk about here, now you being clean and unclean. So here, we're talking about the clean and the washing of the word is what cleanses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the Zara is primarily about this right here.
Come on, the Shonra.
Okay,
Yes.
Right, so then,
no, this is
no, go ahead, because he asked. Go ahead.
Okay. You said, what's the connection to?
Well, because it's just something that I want everybody to look at. Because sometimes if you don't say nothing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we read. You say go to 1 Peter. So we read that, but then did it have anything to do with everything else we just read? It was just some we always like look at say like when you're reading stuff, ask yourself the question: what day of the week is it?
Come on.
It's important.
Come on.
Why did he say this?
Right.
Why was there a difference between giving birth to a boy versus a girl? Mm-hmm. Laws,
Right.
I'm just saying, are we reading it, or are we like asking these questions?
That's good.
So the reasons for the parasol, like I said, we transition into, we're going to the prophets of the kings, and so now what's the connection?
Right.
Because that's the stuff people ask. It's like, well, how does that apply to me?
Right.
Because I don't see no connection. I don't see no transition. We're not in Egypt no more. We ain't in the Old Testament. What does that matter? Why do I need to pay attention to
bring it to modern
ancient law
understanding? Right.
All I need to know is California law.
That's what
I'm in California. I don't need to know all that. Yeah. So I just ask those questions, because like I said, as we read different, everyone will have a different answer. I don't have everybody's answer.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a thought-provoking. What does that mean to you? When we read in Luke and we read in Matthew, it's like, what does that have to do with?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with leprosy?
Well, I've studied this before a little bit and seeing the connections, but like Reverend Al said. No?
No reference.
No, okay, no reference. No reference. Okay. But something I was when I was reading, going through Zaraat, the skin disease of leprosy, it definitely does have a lot to do with evil speech or evil tongue against your neighbor, your loved one, and that's gossip, slander, tale bearing, backbiting, and a lot of people, don't believe that the Most High puts sickness on you, and this is definitely a spiritual contamination here. It's spirit, and then it manifests itself through the flesh. As we've seen, the Most High put on Miriam in Numbers 12, speaking against, or a lot of gossip. That's what she was doing on the back end, and this disease it can spread. That's why I'm seeing that you have to remove these people outside the camp, because one person's bad speech, bad language can influence everybody else around, and they can start spreading things like California wildfire. And after that, the 7 days you're supposed to have that disease run its course. But during running its course, you're actually supposed to be in isolation to think about the transgression, to think about your mouth, to think about your attitude, to examine your heart, to critique yourself, take a look at yourself, judge yourself, and then come to the priest. And then, the priest makes atonement for you, washes you of that sin, purifies you. And lastly, I will say this, that the connection to the gospel portion, when it talks about Yeshua will take on, these things. Pretty much in Isaiah 53 says he will become an asham or guilt offering. He's going to take it. He's going to take on the sickness. He's going to absorb the sickness. He's going to absorb that zara'at that actually we're responsible for, right? And that blood is going to be shed, and that blood is actually that's the purification blood that we believe in. We believe in that shed blood. And some of the rabbis and sages, in the historical writings, they say, Messiah is the leper scholar, because he's bearing the sickness and laying it out for us. He volunteers to take on that sickness, to lay it out for us, because that's the ultimate blood or DNA that cleanses. That's the ultimate blood to get us back to the purified blood, which is the Holy Spirit. And Yeshua did fulfill the laws and the customs. He was circumcised on the 8th day.
Get out of his way.
Circumcised on the 8th day, and he was prophesied to come before the second temple was destroyed, and he followed still the Torah, the regulations, and the customs. So that's one of the connections that I see.
That is.
Hallelujah.
Go back to Aaron and Miriam.
Yeah.
When they spoke against Moses.
Yeah.
And immediately they returned. They had to leprosy.
Mm.
They spoke with their mouths against it.
Oh, yeah.
So when you talk about the importance of, as he say, let no, it's put in the plan, he said, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth.
Hallelujah.
Okay, because this is right quick and getting hard. We shape everything by our mouth. The letters of the Torah form words, and we form those words with our mouth.
Yes.
We get to that one day, hopefully, but we don't think we have that much power, but we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he talks about there's a movement of the Spirit, there's a movement of Yah. I say Yah because I don't want to say Yahweh yet. So you come in there and it's like, all right. So now you're thwarting, you're coming against, you're hindering everything that's being created.
Come on.
And the words say what? The darkness.
Hate the light.
Exactly. Can't comprehend it.
Can't comprehend it.
Can't suppress it. So to make you aware of it, the correction is I'm going to put this on you, but you spoke it on yourself.
Come on.
So it says he puts it on you, but basically you put it on yourself.
Come on.
Just like he showed with the Miriam.
Yeah.
So now heaven declared and heaven bear witness to it. You said it, so here it is.
You brought it into it.
Brought it into existence. You spoke.
Right.
You're your own worst enemy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was. So then, you know, like I say, in that whole thing, like I say, it can spread, it can do. So we got to go outside the camp, got to have atonement, got to have all this. And with the atonement, that's where Yeshua comes in.
Hallelujah.
Exactly. Because the priests were the ones who made the atonement when we read in Leviticus, and like when we read, it's a connection. But the one thing I noticed, the 8th day.
Yes.
Because you know the 8th day, it's always a new beginning.
Right.
So it's on the 8th day, then all of a sudden something brand new. Okay, you went through this affliction or whatever it was. Guess what? Clean slate, brand new. And so we know the 8th day represents, like I said, a brand new beginning. Another thing we read in Peter, and I read again in First Peter, chapter 1, verse 13. Therefore, I'm reading from the Greek interlinear version. Therefore, prepare your minds for action. Discipline yourselves. Set all your hope on the grace that Yeshua or Christ will bring you when he is revealed. Yes. Like obedient children, do not be conformed to desires that you formerly had in ignorance. Because then when you're in that 8th day, you know what I'm saying, you're not supposed to backtrack because you went through that 7 days of cleansing.
Come on.
So that's what stood out to me. We read in Peter right there. You know what I'm saying? It stood out completely. That's what I got out.
Amen.
So also like because we read too, he was talking about while you were still ignorant.
Come on.
Exactly.
Not knowing.
So now it's like in the end of it, it was like, so now be holy because my Father in heaven holy. So the whole thing about we're reading about leprosy is don't let that thing spread.
Come on.
Throughout your body. So I'm monitoring it. So after 7 days, and just like Paul said, if your eye be evil, it'd be better if you just pluck it out.
Come on.
Because if it spreads throughout your body, you know, so like I said, you can't even get to the 8th day because you didn't get past the 7th day.
Exactly.
You know, and so yeah, the whole leprosy thing is about: is it spreading? Is it contagious?
Come on.
So now, like I said, word coming out your mouth is now contagious.
Yes, sir.
You know, we didn't go. You know, I guess the later was like, you know, now we get to the point where I got to burn your clothes up, and we can get to the point where I need to burn you up.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're contagious.
Right.
You know, and now we see that happen in ministry even today, where even like a Malcolm X, it's like it's the first thing we got to do is shut your mouth.
Yeah.
We got to silence you.
Yeah.
Can't speak no more because
you're doing
your
too
words
much.
are contagious.
Yeah, exactly. It's causing too much friction, too many problems. Another thing I noticed, we go to First Peter again, stay there, chapter 1, pick up at verse 19. But with the precious blood of Christ, like that of the Lamb without defect or blemish, he was destined before the foundation of the world, but was revealed at the end of the ages for your sake. Through him you have come to trust in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are set on God. Now that you have purified your souls, again, so through that 7-day cleansing, your soul, your body is purified now. Rather, not just your literal body, but your mind as well.
Yes.
Romans chapter 12, it says, transform your mind.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Christ also said in John chapter 3, you must be born again. So, and in Matthew chapter 18, it also says that you must humble yourself as a child. I'm paraphrasing. But you have to be brand new in order to understand this concept of Messiah, or what we just read in Leviticus. You know what I'm saying? Even when you go to Kings, we always think that the Most High is supposed to conform to our way of healing. The example when the prophet was dealing with the man, he told him with the one individual, he said, just go wash yourself 7 times and go ahead. He's like, what?
Why 7?
Yeah.
Why 7?
Watch the 7 completion. To be complete.
So you mentioned 7. You mentioned 7 days.
Yeah.
So what's the 7-day cycle?
7-day cycle. You have to educate me on that. There you go. Rest.
Yeah. You see that connection?
Exactly.
See that connection?
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah. See,
again, if you don't get the Shabbat, none of this ever matters.
Exactly. See, we're always busy. I'm not saying no one here, but overall, from a general perspective, we're always wondering about what to do on the Sabbath, what not to do. But if you're not resting, like Elder always says, if you're not worshiping, that's not rest. You know what I'm saying? So it's deeper than just, well, I'm not going to wash the dishes or I'm not going to do it. No, that's not the Sabbath. The Sabbath. What did Christ say? He said the Sabbath was made for men. So the Sabbath is not about. Yeah. So it's crazy. But I read 22. Now that you have purified your souls by your obedience to the truth, said you have a genuine mutual love one another deeply from the heart. You have been born anew, not of perishable, but of imperishable seed, through the living and enduring word of God. For, for all flesh is like grass, and its glory like the flower of grass. The grass withers and the flower falls, but the word of the Lord endures forever. You know what I'm saying? So it's the spirit that quickens. Christ said the flesh profit nothing, but it's the spirit that quickens that brings life. So if you're not embracing the spirit, then guess what? Your study of Torah, I don't care how long it is in vain. Because it's deeper. The principles of Torah is coming from a spiritual being. So why all of a sudden we have to put the teachings or the word of the Most High in a little box of religion? You're not getting anything. And then when you do that, you take away the substance of life. That's what Moses says in Deuteronomy chapter 4. Don't add or take away. Because when you add, you take away. And when you take away, you add. Leave it as it is. And then when you do that, you also take the spiritual connection of Christ away. Because now you put him in a box, and now all of a sudden his purpose is not going to be revealed to you because you choose to put everything in a box.
So how do you connect? How do you renew your mind?
You have to renew your mind. How you do that? By being born of the water and of the Spirit.
No. You renew your mind by what you speak out of your mouth.
That is true, but it's a process before you get to that.
No. The process, you have to speak.
That is true. I agree.
So you get to speak what you get. So you have to believe. So you have to speak it. So it's words.
Yeah, and mean them. It's more than just you got to actually act. Yeah, exactly.
Speak it is part of it. Speak
Yes,
is
sir.
the main part of it.
It's the first step.
Two things. Two things. I mean, first of all, for men, period, whether it's knowledge, whether it's material, whatever it is, you have to desire it first.
Yes.
So there has to be a form of admiration in the beginning. You have to admire what you see. You have to admire what it is that you see. So you have to have some form of desire, because once you desire it, then you require it. Once it becomes a requirement, then you find a way to acquire it. So that's how you build yourself in the understanding, because again, the reason why he's saying you have to speak it with your words is because it's one thing to look at something and be like, oh man, that's a nice house, man. You know, it's another thing to look at the house like, man, I really want that house, you know, because now it's in your mind, what am I going to do to get the house? What am I going to do to get to that point? What am I going to take to get there? So when you desire being clean, when you desire the word, when you desire peace, when you desire truth, when you actually desire that, when you admire it amongst other brothers and sisters, and you admire it amongst people, so now you desire, you like, man, how come they have such a peaceful life? You start going, taking steps to acquire that for yourself.
Exactly.
Which is where the speaking comes into play.
Okay. Can somebody read John 6:44?
John 6:44.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's
taking
the
a proverb now.
Come on.
What you were saying, like Leon said, Proverbs says, out of the heart are the issues of life. So what comes in my mouth is connected to my heart. So if what I'm speaking is evil, then my heart is evil. And if you can't separate, I can't say nothing good out of my heart. You know? If there's evil, I can't have good and evil in my heart at the same time.
Yeah, Christ
So
also.
I have to speak all that out.
Yes, sir.
You know, before, like God says, I'm the one who put the desire in your heart. So now, speak certain stuff out.
Yeah.
And like I said, the word and everything coming in.
Yeah.
I'm replacing that with the truth.
Yeah, but also says Christ. He said, "Out of the heart, out of the man's mouth is the abundance of his heart." If I'm
So they're
saying
connected.
that correctly. Exactly. But John chapter 6, verse 44. No one can come to me unless drawn by the Father who sent me.
Come on.
And I will raise that person up on the last day.
Come on.
It's enough. So what we get out of that?
Man, most definitely.
I tell you the first thing. Paul talks about it. Shaul talks about it. No man can boast.
Yes.
It's not a work.
Come on.
You can't work for it. He told Israel, he said, I chose you. He said, you were my firstborn. You were the weakest, you were the sorry. When you really get to understand who the children of Israel were, you understand they were somewhere renegades. Okay, so it's like, all right, so but I took you and I chose you to be a holy nation. I'm taking the responsibility of making you holy. I take the responsibility of making you righteous. The obedience come in. I even gave you the grace so that you can come into obedience. Where say Yeshua learned obedience through his suffering. So it's like we don't get to choose.
Come on.
Contrary to what a lot of people teach, we don't get to choose. He chooses us. Now that's one of the hardest things.
Come on.
For a lot of people to understand. But once you get it, then you understand just how precious you really are. You understand you've been chosen, and this thing is serious.
Come on.
You know, this ain't nothing to be because I didn't do it. Because most of us are walking down the street eating a tuna fish sandwich, minding our own business.
Come on.
And he called us up. You know, Shaul was a great example of that. So he was persecuting the church, so to speak, if they call it. And he came to him. The bright light came to him and told him, why you doing this? Why you doing it? I want to send you to the people that do this work for me. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but I just want to make sure we clarify that. I'm not, that we can't do anything. It's all his grace. So we talk about Vayikra. The message in Vayikra is redemption.
Yes.
It's the book of redemption. Okay? And so it's all about us being redeemed from the things that we were incapable of being redeemed from.
Come on.
And then the word going to say that the Torah was a type of that to come.
Yes, sir.
That still showed us you can't do it. He did it.
Right.
And then we put our trust in him.
Exactly.
So he came with grace and truth. So the same grace that they got in the Torah, he brought it.
Exactly.
So we had a grace that he didn't, the mercy that he didn't destroy us when we were ignorant, the grace that he didn't destroy while we even learned, or when we learned.
Yeah.
It's grace having its perfect work within us. And so those things to keep in mind that we can rest. Hallelujah. We can rest in because it's nothing I can do but be obedient. And I can only be obedient to that he's given me. And as he continues to give to me, I have to humble myself.
Oh.
He said, I give grace to the humble. So now if I get proud and say, I did this. Yeah, I came to him. I went up there and I confessed. No, you didn't.
Exactly.
He did. And so he gets all his glory.
Hallelujah.
And we steal his glory. Here we go with the bad mouth now. We just talk about we just talk about it. So here it comes.
I would say because several things you said in that statement kind of it makes sense, but it also kind of adds to the point that we're all saying, which I wouldn't necessarily say that we can't do anything.
I know. I heard you.
Because because even with what you're saying, he put it in us very much so. But he also put this little bug in our ear called choice. And because you live it. You have the choice to be here or the choice not to be here. So the whole thing about choice is you can choose to listen and follow and pay attention, or you can choose to be disobedient. I mean, like you said, when we choose to give ourselves over to him, that's a choice. Whether he calls us or not, that's not in debate. That's something that's already understood. But you have a choice to, how can I put it? You have a choice basically to listen to your conscience and your heart and follow these things that allow you to move in the direction that you're being pulled towards, or you have a choice to butt your head against the wall and fight it and go against it. Because if you didn't, If there was no choice, then in that idealism, we would pretty much come out the womb and be 100 miles of running in one direction because we have no choice. So we're only going to go in this direction.
May I throw this in there?
Yeah.
Just a question. I know Deuteronomy 30 verses 18 and 19 says the Father lays out life and death, choose life. However, my question is, uh, going back to Pharaoh, uh, when Moses was told to go to Pharaoh, said, let the people go. The Most High said to Moses, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart. In Isaiah 29, when people start doubting, the Father will turn you over into your mind of reprobate. So in that case, I know the Father says He gives us a choice, life and death. He's telling us to choose. But in the case of Pharaoh, when Pharaoh's heart got hardened by the Most High, He said He was going to harden the heart. And in Isaiah 29, He says, He's going to give you over pretty much to your own thoughts. Do you have a choice then when the Father says He's hardening your heart?
See, but again, we're pulling out specific situations that to cited sources when in actuality people live every day. So if for this one recorded day in history, my heart was hardened, so I was not allowed to make choices, doesn't mean that up until that point I wasn't. Obviously, I was because He had to harden my heart. See what I'm saying? So just in actuality, there is no okay. Well, He hardened His heart, so He didn't have a choice. Correct. In that point in time, in that situation, for that time period, He did not have a choice because His heart was hardened. But prior to that, post that, once the Father gave Him back to have His free will, He was able to make a choice.
Got himself into that situation.
Correct.
Okay. See, the prophecy wouldn't have been fulfilled if Pharaoh had choice. If he had chosen not to go after them, then he never would have been destroyed. And the children of Israel never would have been free. The baptism never would have occurred. Okay?
Correct.
Now, it's two types of people we're talking about here. We're talking about the people, which are the children of Israel, and we're talking about the Goyim, we're talking about the Gentiles. Okay. Now, if you're any of us, if we're Gentiles, then yeah. Then yeah. But if we are His children, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, I get your point too.
I
understand both. I understand both sides. Yeah.
I'll explain it like
so
this.
just let me say this part. We can't take away the fact that He is He's the Almighty God. Okay, just like when we're asleep, we don't make the choice whether we wake up or not. We don't have that power. All that power is with Him. So we asked Him. That's why most of our parents, especially old school,
teach us that prayer. Come on.
And then when you get up in the morning, it's like, oh, hallelujah, I'm awake. But it's like, we don't have that kind of power. Now, when we are outside the camp looking in, like you said, He's drawing. And in that draw, you can be obedient and say, I want that. Or you can say, I don't want that. Well, he don't stop. He's still drawing you. He's still drawing. Once He chose you, then you're coming in.
Come on.
Now you can act up, and you can be stubborn, and you can do all these things you want to. That's disobedient. But when it comes to choice, and you're His child, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice whether you were male or female, whether your skin was dark or light. We don't have those choices.
I mean, I feel you, but that's honestly that's just a twist of words because obedience and choice is the same thing. Because if you're disobedient, you're basically not following what was laid out for you, and if you're obedient, you're following what was laid out for you, i.e., options, i.e., choices. So again, now you don't have a choice if you're called because if He puts that in your heart to have you desire that, there is nothing more powerful, and you're not going to stray away from that. If you're His children, like you said, and that's how you were built, and that's how you were made up to be, that's who you're going to be. So definitely I understand what you're saying, but just I try to look at things in the overall life aspect because as much as I go to the Word for reference and for confirmation, I also recognize that there's clues all around me, just in everyday life and the way we live, and you have to recognize that because that's the piece of the puzzle we cannot ignore, or else we'll never put everything together.
Sure.
There'll always be a big chunk of the puzzle missing.
I think you just stated your context.
Yeah.
When you said you're looking at everything and everything on it.
Life.
It seemed like his context was more about what He's called.
Right.
Down.
Right.
Top down.
Right.
So I mean, you guys are both correct.
Right.
Most definitely right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
I heard what you said.
Right.
I was just talking about for clarity.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about what we say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about how we can say little things and get ourselves in trouble. I wasn't directed.
No, I get it, but I guess I'm one of them people that also, there's a lot of people who are scared to speak for themselves because they don't know what the right thing is to say or what to do.
Okay.
And when they hear certain conversations, they immediately feel lost or shut out because they don't know a direction that we're coming from. So, especially being on the internet and all that stuff, try to give that perspective of even as simple as, hey, I mean, you can choose this.
And that's something I have to, because I'm not used to being,
Right.
This is our audience right here. Yeah.
Right.
I heard it. Like I said, when you said it, I heard you. And it wasn't a direct attack. It wasn't a personal attack. But, I was just thinking of what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so let's make sure, we don't speak anything against him in a sense of pride that we did anything.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all.
May I mention a couple of things if I could?
He been trying to get.
Oh, sorry, my bad. You got to write it down. You got to write it down.
I was saying, in the spirit.
Yeah, all that whole thing about understanding free will and choice. And my understanding of it, after like doing this for like 2 years, like we really only are given one. Just like life. Like this human life, we only are given one. So how you choose, but like I said, if we say if I give my life to him, if I make that choice, then I've given away all other choices.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So I'm making the same choice over and over, but I'm making a choice I already made. It's not a new choice.
Yes.
Like I said, I married my wife, and if another woman comes, I've already made the choice.
Yeah, to be with your wife. Yeah.
And the only other choice I'm gonna make is I'm gonna go divorce her. But that's a whole, but I don't get to make that choice because I've already made. I've already made, and so like I said, with him, with the father, it's like he said, like in Deuteronomy, you either choose life or you choose death. But once you've made the choice, you're no longer in control of your choice because you've made it, so you've relinquished all other choices.
Exactly.
Because I'm no longer, like I said, I've given you control of my life. I don't have control. So like I said, whether I wake up, don't wake up, whether I go right, whether I go left, my only instruction is be led by the Spirit.
Yeah.
But I've already made the choice to follow the Spirit.
Exactly. But now
I just didn't know today I was going to be over here, but the choice that I made was a choice that I already made. He's just bringing it to my remembrance.
Right.
The choice that you made. Don't forget what you chose.
Yeah.
Because now there's going to be consequences because of disobedience, obedience. Good consequences are bad. But the choice I made, and I can't make another choice. Just like you say, the gang only way out now. It's by the 9. You ain't gonna say, I don't want to be in the gang no more. No, you made that choice.
You made that choice to be in. Now I'm glad you brought that up.
You're just an old G now, but you still a G.
Exactly. Now I'm glad you brought that up. Choice, right? Because it goes back to Israel. They agreed to the terms. You know what I'm saying? They were in the wilderness and they told the Most High, whatever it is you want us to do, we will do it. And right there, you understood what you just did. And then, but turn to Isaiah 40.
But they were scolded for being disobedient.
Yeah.
Because they made the choice.
Yeah.
That they already
before
made.
you go to Isaiah 2, I want to touch on something that we read on earlier.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, because I want to stick in the Torah and actually have 2 questions and then something. 306.
It might be an hour.
I gotta go after this. I got a meeting at 3:30. But basically, back at Luke chapter 2, when you read, Shimon blessed them and said to the child's mother Miriam, "This child will cause many in Israel to fall and to rise. He will become a sign whom people will speak against.
Yes.
And moreover, a sword will pierce your own heart too.
Yeah.
All this will happen in order to reveal many people's
inmost thoughts."
This actually, it's funny because I've actually never read this before. This actually has a personal touch to me right now, and a nationwide touch. I got parts of my family that have definitely been torn apart due to conflict, due to words, due to disagreements, due to actions, due to decisions, due to interpretation. A lot of it is caused verbally. A lot of it starts verbally. You know, a lot of them, you know, in the word, faithful, go to church, whatever, you know, all that, but their conflict runs deep verbally. We don't have physical fights, you know what I mean, but verbally is just, they would tear each other down. You know what I'm saying? My little nephew, my little cousin just passed away. I'm saying 3 years old, short life. You know, his mom was probably the nicest, most sweetest, most faithful person out of my little cousins. You know what I'm saying? She's the one out of any of them you would say you don't deserve this. But according to this, she the one that had to happen to in order for everybody else to reveal their
Come
thoughts.
on, that's
You know
how
what
the
I'm saying?
that's
Because
how
if it was somebody else, maybe the impact wouldn't have affected the entire family the way that it did. You know, because it was her son, it touched everybody. You know what I'm saying? It didn't just touch just her dad, her mom. It touched all of us. So that's powerful. And on a national scale, um, if we look around right now, especially in the last 7 years, there have been more school shootings, there have been more kids dying, there have been more massacres on our children than any time in our nation's history.
Yes.
And although all we get swamped with is the negativity we see on the news, we all know what tragedy does to people. And if you go and you research those communities and those areas, and you look at how those people are coming together and how those people are trying to get out their own way, and how those people are starting to try to fight together, and it's starting with the kids. They're not waiting on their parents to do it. You got teenagers going to Capitol Hill. You got kids working together, bonding together over life. You know, and it took the tragedy of children dying. It took the tragedy of kids being taken out of a situation that they had nothing to do with. But those kids, though some of them may have caused them to fall, being the ones who did the shootings, the rest of them is going to cause the nation to rise because as we get over mourning for them, people come together. And, you know, I thought that was powerful with the time we living in right now, that this is something we read across because this is going on all over the place. Like, you can just see this.
Yeah.
Like, you can, like, period. So I just thought that was something going out.
The cause for sin is always, just like we read the sacrifices, the offerings, something innocent always has to die. Since the beginning. So the most purest, most innocent thing is the only thing that can redeem us. So yeah, we're gonna see all kinds of killings of innocent, unnecessary killings because that's the cost for it.
Well, it's not like I said. Don't kill it by saying unnecessary.
Well, how we see it, you know, it is necessary, but we don't see the work of God. We're talking about that. We don't look at the Holy Spirit and what's happening. We just look at the incident and we determine that's tragedy.
That's why I was
he said I cut some of the righteous lives short so that they don't suffer.
And that's what the person who brought the eulogy said.
We take in the whole
because they understood.
Come on. One thing about this Bible I criticize, it don't put enough of the writing, enough of the Proverbs and the Psalms here. And I was going to go back and start writing a different Torah portions and start adding some of those things in there because everybody knows there's a wealth of knowledge in the Proverbs.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And so
Proverbs ministers.
So I just want to say that I know everybody, but when he said choose death or choose life, what he was really saying was speak death or speak life. That's what he was really saying. So he talking about put the blood on the ear for what you hear.
Come on.
Put it on your foot or where you go.
Come on.
And put it on your hand.
Actually
what you do.
Hallelujah.
Huh?
He covered it.
When he told the priest to take the blood and put it.
Yes.
So it's like, okay. So now we're talking about the atonement. So like this has been the theme the whole time. So once now we atone, so what's next? So it's just like anything. So it's like two people get married. So what's next? A honeymoon. Sweet.
Right.
Sweet, you know. You don't get married and be like, bitch, I hate you.
Right.
I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
brother.
hey, we
You know,
we family here. We got
yeah,
to, you know.
so that
What comes after obedience?
what come after obedience? Grace and humility and grace, right?
Because it's a lifestyle of being obedient.
Well, it's grace.
Right.
Grace brings you to the obedience. You get more grace. You know, but it's a lifestyle of obedience.
Turn to Isaiah 33. This came to
You needed to hear this today, didn't you, BA?
Hey, while we turning our books, can we give BA a round of applause for being on time today?
Yes.
Only being late twice. It just happened to be 2 weeks in a row. Just twice.
You know, you don't see the shine in the
Oh,
mirror,
here
though,
you go.
Three-way.
That shaved off about 20 minutes right there. No,
Oh, God, that's killing me.
So this is your first week. That's what
Okay.
we didn't hear. Torch didn't even go to the
helping people.
Torch didn't even
He's
go
on
to
his
the ball
way to
head.
the store stuff, but he was helping people.
Oh, okay.
So the help was
Torch, you didn't even go to the
higher
ball
priority.
head.
Yeah, I definitely understand.
Like,
The ball head.
what's the parable? Where the priest and the Levite walk right by the guy?
Oh, yeah.
The Good Samaritan?
Yeah, the good
Yeah.
Samaritan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they walk right by him. So that's what he was doing.
Being the good Samaritan on the Sabbath. That's right. Doing
That's what he
good on
told
the
me. I ain't got nothing to do with
Sabbath.
Isaiah 33,
Mhm.
verse 15.
Hey man, I'm sorry. I just got a picture. Somebody needs some oil in their car, and BA was like, "I got you."
All right, let's get back to business here.
This is family love.
Yeah, and I'm getting laughed at, man. I
The
got
Father
people
gave
around
us a
laughing at
sense
me.
of humor too. You know. Yes.
Okay. Isaiah 33, here at verse 15.
Mhm.
He that walks in righteousness speaketh rightly, hating transgression and iniquity, and shaketh his hands from gifts, stopping his ears that he should not hear the judgment of blood, shutting his eyes that he should not see injustice. He shall dwell in a high cave of a strong rock. Bread shall be given him, and his waters shall be sure.
We covered that in a couple of Torah portions ago. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask you, BA, way back when you was in Peter. That's the highlight. And I'm gonna ask you, how does that relate to being unclean until evening?
Being unclean till evening.
Which part of Peter? First Peter?
When he was reading,
Okay.
we got sidetracked. It was something in there, and I was wondering if you ever really looked at when we kept reading over and over the last couple of weeks. I'm unclean until evening.
Yeah.
Because when you got into the 7-day thing, I thought, how does that factor in, or what does it mean to you?
Well, now to the eve, we know the eve. That's when a new day comes in. So, how I would look at that, I would probably say, oh man, that's a good question. Being unclean to the eve.
It's a lunar cycle, basically.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I have to humble myself and listen to the point you have to make.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's about. I just want to know if that's where you were going. I wanted to see
Okay.
if you were looking at that.
No, we're not in depth, not in particularly. The 7 days to me was like, okay, this is a cycle that you go through before you get to that 8th day when you're brand new. That's how I was looking at it. I wasn't that's how what I got of it now. More in depth at the eve. I really I probably have to get back on you on that one.
Yeah, I just think it's something you should really comprehend because I listen to a lot of stuff you're saying. Well, it's going to mean something different to everybody. But like to me, it's like I relate it to other scriptures. It's like, well, the turning of the sun. So we turn to darkness.
To eat, okay.
And then joy cometh in the morning because we turn back to the light. So there's for everybody there may be some different way of seeing it, you know. But basically, when we turn to the darkness, not that we're all unclean, you know, but there is a process taking place in all of us, but we look forward to the morning,
right?
Because not the setting of the sun, you know, up and down setting of the sun, but how the earth turns on its axis.
Right.
So we turn away from the light, and then we turn back to the light. You know, so for me, there's different me, but I was asking quickly, like how are you seeing it?
Okay.
Because you're gonna have to see it,
right?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna change how you see everything.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
And so all these things, like I said, we have to look at these transitions. And so, like, what does it mean that I touch some blood, I touch an unclean thing, and I'm unclean till evening? So do you just am I just clean at 6 o'clock?
Or is there some type of process you got to go through?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
but there's
most
certain
definitely.
things there's a process.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna ask a question. Where were they unclean from?
From their sins, from their actions, to the things that they took upon in life, just daily.
For some of it's not wasn't sin.
That's why I was going to ask about back to Leviticus 12 when the woman she conceives.
Okay.
That's not a sin to conceive,
right.
But why does she have to have sacrifice brought after she's done with her days of purification, 33 or 66, whether she has a boy or a girl? Why does she have to come and bring a sacrifice for atonement?
Right.
Atonement is usually either for chatas, sin, which is unintentional, or what is it? It's unintentional chatas, and then transgression, right? For intention. So giving birth, and this is something to talk about. That's why I said, okay, why does a woman who brings life or helps bring life into the world, why does she have to come and make atonement?
Right.
This is something good to understand.
Right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You said go ahead. Well, me and a sister in the East Coast were talking about this, but she has to shed her own blood a little bit. The lining in her menstruation is actually for a life to come, and when that life comes, it's actually that life is born into some sort of spiritual uncleanliness, right? Now how that's what we were talking about, the spiritual uncleanliness, is she opening up this into the world, or is that her human blood is still in the process of maybe contamination at that time, but even though she has to bring the child, she still has to go through with bringing the child and bring back some sort of purification.
So it talks about it parallels it with her being on her menstrual, right?
Yeah.
Anita. Mm-hmm. So why does it take place? Why does the menstrual?
Oh, it's building up for if her egg is fertilized, before it's fertilized, it has to have enough blood for giving it life, because there's life in the blood.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Life is in the blood.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say just because we read, because it is a discharge.
See, this is good to talk about.
But it has a fertile egg in it.
Come on.
Just like he could parallel a man's semen.
Mm-hmm.
Also has a fertile egg in it.
Right.
And so now that because of the discharge, there is a law.
Right. They have
because the discharge contains what?
Blood.
And the blood is what?
Life.
And so now if the blood is discharged, what happens to the life?
It's contaminated. It's contaminated.
So if you touch death, he said if you touch death, then you're unclean.
Right.
Yeah, and then not just that, it goes back to that story with that Tamar and Judah, one of the sons of Judah.
Yeah.
And how the Most High had killed one of Judah's sons.
Oh Tamar because he and he
Well, no, one of the sons, one of Judah's sons before Judah.
That was Dina who got raped.
Yeah, yeah.
He talking about Tamar when Judah was supposed to give
Genesis 38 6, 38?
38.
Yeah, and how the Most High had killed one the boy.
Yeah.
He didn't really want to impregnate her. So for that reason,
he had to raise up his brother's seed. His brother, that was his wife.
That.
Right, yeah.
So the Most High struck him down for that. Yeah.
So you're saying spilling the seed on the ground.
Well,
that's what you okay.
Yeah. Well, that was
something a little different, but
but that was more about the responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah, that is true.
Raise up, right?
I'm allowed to say it. Some people say it's not a word, but it is.
It is a word.
Irresponsible.
Oh
yeah.
Plus, that's the bloodline of Messiah too. So
if
that's
you were,
another reason
if you commanded, that was being disobedient, right?
Exactly.
Is that
that was a direct violation?
Direct violation. Right. Right.
Irregardless and Irregardless is a word. I promise you it's a
Oh man.
I promise you.
He said we gotta look that up, right?
I already
have to bring that out. But I did want to bring up something about prayer. You want to bring up something? Because you were talking about speaking life, and your words got to come out. When I was going back into a teaching with prayer, people think prayer is just one form of intercession where you're trying to get the Most High Yahweh to change His mind.
Right.
You know, the Most High don't change.
Right.
But when you look at the Hebrew word, it's palel, and palel, when you pray, you're actually doing a lot of judging or self-inspection or critiquing or evaluation. You know, you're actually looking inside yourself because the Father's already equipped you with everything you need to do to be obedient. You just got to do that intercession, that prayer, and when you come to your senses about what you're supposed to be doing when it comes to the Word, then the Most High said, you know, your prayer is pretty much answered. Pretty much, you really did some inner seeking, right?
Right.
you confirm.
Right.
Say it says believe is already received.
Right.
So it's already set in motion.
Come on. Right.
If you just confirming what you just open your eyes to something that was already taking place.
Right. And so a lot of times when we pray, you know, we're speaking out loud. We're putting those life molecules and energy into the atmosphere.
At the times we don't pray, what are we doing? When we speak, see,
worship.
Huh? Well, yeah, you're right, but I'm getting that. What we don't understand is we're praying all the time.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. I think I see where you're going.
We're praying all the time. See, we're taught to, as babes, so to speak. You know, go in the closet, do this.
Yeah.
But when they talk about the man of Elohim, the man of God, the man, the full-grown person, you're doing it all the time. So whatever comes out of your mouth, that happens. So we go back
even in conversation.
Exactly.
Right.
So that takes away your peace.
Come on.
When you don't speak Torah, when you don't speak the right things,
see why I said I ain't gonna.
It takes away your shalom.
I'm done with that.
So we talk about the Torah. We talk about the cycle. So it's really only one day.
I'm excited.
Right? It's only one day. That's the Shabbat. And so we're looking forward to that Shabbat bringing to the writer of Hebrews telling us we're looking forward to a greater
Hallelujah.
To a greater Shabbat, to a complete
Hallelujah.
A 7 Shabbat. We're on 3 Shabbat, so to speak, now, but it's like, okay.
That's right.
So here we are, but it's only one day. So that day is the day he said, I'm trying to teach you on this day to all the things you were talking about, assemble, fellowship,
that 5th cup of wine.
Right. Right. All right. Rejoicing in me.
Read our word. When you do all these things we're talking about, then we create things. See, you see, all during the 6th day, he created things. And on the 7th day, he rested. Now the paradox is just the opposite. We go out there and work, we ain't creating nothing. We helping somebody else get rich, primarily, unless we own our own business, but we're not creating anything. You know, if we create wealth for
somebody else.
Yeah. But it's like, so on the Shabbat, when we do these things, so now there. It was one of the rabbis, and he's into Kabbalah. It's kind of hard to get into something, but he came up. He concluded that if one day went where nobody read Torah, then everything would blow up.
Yeah.
Wow. Because there would be no instructions. There would be no instructions for the Alatar.
Yeah.
Wow. So he gave instruction to the Alatar, right?
Right.
He said, "Let there be light," so it formed, and there was light. He said,
"He spoke things into existence."
Exactly.
Yeah. He just spoke it, and things happen.
Exactly. So when we read out loud the Torah, we're causing things to stay in place as it should.
I meant to also ask you when you said Luke chapter 4 when Yeshua stood up to read during the synagogue service, because I'm gonna ask this as a woman, because some people say, well, the woman didn't get up to read.
Okay.
Or did everybody take participation, or did the woman not get up, or just still sit down, or was everybody?
Okay. My understanding is this.
I'm gonna go look this.
When they came, when you came to like the synagogue, that was everybody. That was the community. That was everybody. Okay, everybody that belongs to it. So in that case, primarily the men spoke. Okay, now Shaul said, if you have a husband, ask your husband at home. So he specifically said to the married women. Okay. Now, so who the single women gonna ask? Huh? Well, if they're gonna ask the father, then why are we gonna congregate anyway? That's the point. If everything we do, we ask the father, then what's the point anyway?
See, exactly. But see,
their father.
Okay.
What if they out of the house?
And they on their own.
What if they scorn? What if they father kick them out? So it comes back to the just what we're doing here now. It comes back to this is good, but this is not perfection. Perfection is everybody doing everything in their own home. Everybody having Torah study in their own home. So that's perfection. We we're a long way from that.
Come on.
But this is better than that.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and so it's like, all right.
Yeah, boy, yeah.
So now we go back. So now we're talking about. I know y'all had mentioned something about the covering one time.
Yeah.
So now we go back to in my house with my wife. It's already understood who's the head of the house, right?
You gotta go
just like it's understood who's the domesticator of the house. It ain't that I'm elevated into. It's just my responsibility. The same thing with her. She's the one that's gonna care for the children. She gave birth to them. She nurtured. She gonna do a better job than they do.
It's the position you play. The position.
That's all it is. But so as the head, it's like it's already understood. So then he get into about the hair, and the glory, all this and all that and everything. So it's like now we look at it from the standpoint of each person in their own home, like they did at the Pesach with the firstborn. In your house, in your own home, you put the blood over the box.
That right.
On the frame. You roast the lamb. You did this, you did this. But if it was too much, you ain't brought the neighbor. But it's about each individual.
Yeah.
It's about what you bring to the table.
Huh?
It's about what you bring to the table. What you have to offer. What do you do? What are you doing? Overall?
Well, the family. The family is the body.
Yeah, the body.
The bait. Remember I was
talking.
Remember when Regina asked, why does the father say build me a house as opposed to build me a temple? He said both, but bait is that house, that family.
Right.
Yeah,
okay, and that family, you're a part of a. Come on, you're part of a family.
Yeah, so
each part of the family plays the part.
Right,
exactly.
And just like the members of a body, like we have a body, there's a head, arms, legs, eyes, nose, whatever. Exactly. But we come together for one common goal. We each have a part. Come on. you good. No, you good. You good. You good.
But so here we are now. We talk about a body and what did he say? He said, unless you can kick that one to the curb.
Come on.
Unless you can get that one the boot. Unless you can get that one the middle finger. You can't follow me. Because I didn't choose him or her or them or them. I chose you.
Come on. That's why he chose Abraham.
And so now we sit here now. This is the house.
going to 100%.
We ain't ready.
When we get to that point, so then we talk, there's all this thing about the gifts and all that. But it's like she said, everything is built on the bed. Everything is built on the house. The concern is my house, my people, and my land.
That's that teaching we waiting tomorrow to come with.
Come on.
The Eastern culture concept versus the Western culture.
Come on.
Right.
Oh yeah, the responsibility always lies at the head. So I was saying, like, my daughters can go break my neighbor's window out. It wasn't my fault, but it's my responsibility. They ain't coming for them; they coming for me.
Exactly.
So it's my responsibility. The same thing. Now we look at all the things like we talk about our men ministry. We teach 100%, and then most men think they're real men, and they don't want to come back no more because they don't want to hear about all the responsibilities that they neglect. So same when he says, leave an inheritance for your children. Well, if I'm not doing that, I don't want to come hear you telling me I'm not doing it. Right. What the word says you're supposed to do. So don't think you, the father that you're supposed to be, the husband you're supposed to be, and you ain't doing the very thing that you read in the word. Yeah, see that.
So
you're falling short. So now,
they may not be reading
or
even comprehending.
Only thing God doing, only thing the Most High doing with you is bringing you back to number one. Your number one responsibility.
Now, I was just talking about, he brought that point where it hit home. He said when you're talking about the innermost, then it hit home. Okay. So now this is my family. It's blood of my blood. This is family. And you didn't choose that person. Wait a minute, God. I just say God,
Yeah. We know what you're talking about, yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
You want me, but you don't want him, or you don't want her. And so we get rebellion and say, "Ooh, what about you?"
Ooh,
because I love her, or I love him.
I ain't ready for that.
In some cases, when people marry, it's like, well, my spouse been better than me than you have. We start to think like that. We're talking about the innermost thoughts.
The innermost thoughts.
She was talking about the transgression.
He draws those.
But there's a hidden transgression.
Come on.
And so this is what he talked about, the two-edged sword. So now when we come to this place, so now our first responsibility is mercy. Our responsibility to proclaim, maintain life.
My brother, who's my mother.
But it's like mercy.
Yes.
He said, so you have to give mercy to obtain mercy.
Exactly.
So now if I sleep in the bed with you, or I raise you up as a child, and I'm not crying out for mercy from the Most High, because you're not sitting at the table partaking of the bread, you're not partaking of the blood, you're not reading the Torah. What's more important than me crying out for mercy for them? No, I tell you what, that ain't your responsibility. That's the evangelist's responsibility. The evangelist's supposed to go get them.
See that because even mercy. This is why I have it. When it comes to the laws of the teachings of the Torah, that's why I always tell people I don't make it a point to make it seem like I know the whole Torah.
Come on.
Mercy. Yeah. That's and like you said earlier, boasting.
Yeah.
And when you get to a point to where you say I read the whole Torah and I know the whole Torah, you have completely butchered it. You have completely butchered it. Yes, exactly. And then we got all these people. You got to keep it 100. We got to do this. Well, you're not even showing mercy.
But
that's commanded in the Torah.
But the main ingredient, right? You know the main ingredient. The song, the group.
Oh yeah.
What the hit song?
We always do the most. We always go back, man. 3 degrees.
Everybody play the food.
Fifth dimension. Yeah.
Everybody play the food sometimes.
Yeah.
Cooper Gooding Jr. Dad made it, but everybody plays the food sometimes.
Come on.
Well, so that's even more mercy.
Paul, like even when Paul was saying, I know now that I know nothing.
That's
don't use the words them and they. Don't worry about. I know Leon always get on breakfast on that. Don't use the words them and they. Paul said, I don't know nothing. So no, I'm talking about me.
Yes.
As soon as you say they don't do this and them people and those over there and they don't get it, well, as soon as you open your mouth and say, guess what you're gonna be tested on?
Yeah, exactly.
Words that you just came out your mouth. Because you put your mouth
You
on them.
Yeah,
that's what he called idle words. He said we'll be judged on because they didn't form anything.
Yeah, and then when words of life, when you deal with individuals, that mindset, when you give them words of encouragement or words of life, it fall upon deaf ears.
But see, Yeshua taught you that already.
Yeah, that is true.
So, but what's deeper than that? What's the greater part of that is mercy. To show mercy.
Yeah,
that's what he did. He showed mercy to
Go
everybody.
right back to your responsibility. Did he give you responsibility to fix them, correct them?
That ain't your responsibility.
Exactly. Right. So as soon as you try to do that, well, you didn't understand the word. Yeah. Because he said, I didn't tell you to do that. You ain't got nothing to be sorry about. Enough to do that.
You got nothing to be sorry about.
Yeshua said some of them I can't even say.
Yeah, he couldn't save them all.
It's true, but because he said I can only get who my father draw.
Yeah, those who
he draw.
Who he draw. Those who
so
are.
You have to have a discernment.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he ain't drawing you, but I'm gonna have mercy. I'm crying out for you. So it's hard to cry for the guy 6 blocks away if I ain't crying out for the person in my own household. See, the creation was formed of mercy. The closest thing we have down between me and him, us and him, is mercy.
See that right there.
Because I want somebody holy to be with me, but you ain't holy enough. So I can just blow everybody up and create some more and blow them up and create some more and blow them up and create some more and keep blowing them up. But I'm gonna have mercy on you, your little poor soul, your unholy, unrighteous soul. And I'm gonna give you this grace. And I'm gonna give you this truth. Because the truth is I am the truth, being him. And everything I say is what matters. And that's all that matters. But I'm gonna have mercy on you and I'm gonna show you how to be like me. And it starts right here, just like he was saying. You talking about being part of him. He said you got to confess with your mouth and believe in your heart.
Yeah.
But you got to confess with your mouth.
Yeah, first. Yeah. You got to. Yeah.
So it's like, how many of us said, I believe something happening to me. When he started the unction, when he started pulling, it's like something. His testimony, I ain't gonna get into it because it's first. But he said he cried for how long?
6 months.
6 months. Because something ain't right here. Well, yeah, everything's right. I'm the one who ain't right. But everything else is right. Yeah. But it didn't come to, like I said, he was going to innermost thought. It didn't dawn on me that, whoa, I'm the one who effed up. And it's like, okay.
Like what Elijah said, what am I, God now? I'm supposed to heal lepers and
And that same Elijah, what he did? Come on. He shut up. He shut up the rain with the words of his mouth. Come on. Shut up the sky with the words of he created something. He created
it. Working through. That all that you just taught right there, Elder.
I ain't teaching that. I just said the word.
I mean, that is to the Most High already revealed it. Okay. But the thing is that overall in life, you meet people who what we just got into. They are all that you just taught, or the Most High had gave to you to give to us. They are actually looking to see to find that written. Thou shalt show yada 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 yada.
They need it written verbatim.
They need it written verbatim for it to stick. If you can't see that beyond the pages, then I can't help you. Right. Yeah, I can't help you.
It's the spirit that
it's the spirit that quickens. Yeah, right. It's the spirit that quickens.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? All right.
We know this. We know this. Figure out what we're gonna be next week.
We just need it.
Yeah, we'll get contact. I'll keep contact with you.
Get your house.
Yeah.
All right. Get your house. Yeah. So yeah, I understand the mission because when you look at Israel, they failed. But it's all proselyte, they actually failed in making everybody Israel. You know, that's the big thing. That's where the big disconnect. So I understand, you know, the unction in us to make people Israel, or to help people to become Israel.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's not at the forefront of things. See, you know, there's the spirit, and they said the spirit does as he will within each one of us. So let's say if I'm an evangelist, I just use it. So my mindset is I'm going out and win souls, right? But then the spirit may say, go to the beach and dig some clams. You know, what they got to do with winning souls? See, so here we go. Now my mom.
Now all of a sudden, instead of listening to a direct order, you decide you want to be a rebel.
Exactly. So you're not really trying to be a rebel. She's talking about unintentional. You just don't see the connection.
You don't see the connection.
Because it's for us to see. That's when we talk about vision. Yeah. So see, like I said, we all military men. When somebody said attention, we went to attention. We understood that. You know, we understood we are in the military. Now we can choose to be disobedient. We still in the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no matter what.
We still property on sugar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He beat our head in. Well, he failed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we're still his property. Mm-hmm. So we talk about, you know, the measure of the spirit that we have, that he continually give it to us so that we'll be obedient. See, it's not about everything. It's not analytical.
Come on.
It's not all in that sense of there's always, I always say this, and excuse me, don't take this personal, because this can go both ways. But all good things in the middle.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, the middle of the Oreo, let's use that one. You know, that's where the good stuff is. So it's like, so when we in the middle.
Joe gave me the message. Yeah.
Okay, when we in the middle, that's where Yeshua operates. In the middle. That's what we call it supernatural. Mm-hmm. That's where it is. So now, when we understand we're supernatural beings, we're living in a physical world. Our orders come from a supernatural being. Mm-hmm. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Spiritual. The weapons are spiritual. I'm the one who give you the power to get well. I'm the one who give you the power to speak the tongue. I'm the one who give you everything you got. So when I tell you to do something, do it. Do it. Mm-hmm. Not because of your title, not because of the color of your skin, mm-hmm. not because of this, not mm-hmm. because of that, mm-hmm. but simply because I said do it. That's the first understanding when I was talking about the facade. You know, in your face. It's like, I'm in your face. Mama did it. Big Mama especially did it. I'm in your face telling you not to open the door for nobody. Even if Jesus come knock on the door, don't let him in, not today. You know, you tell him, you say, I can only please one person per day. And the day ain't your day. And tomorrow don't look good either.
Oh, man. This is a good word right here.
But it's like so we consume ourselves with titles and such and all this and that, instead of just simply listening to the Spirit.
Come on.
Being obedient. Just being obedient.
When we talk about that, being in the middle of that time, the significance of it, the eye of the storm, took them to the middle of the lake. They're always taking you to the middle. And then that's where you say, I'm in the midst of them. I'm in the middle of something. Exactly. And I always say, don't mess with me now, I'm in the middle of something. Right. You know,
he said,
this ain't the time to be in the middle. You know,
this is funny.
I'm already in the middle now. You know, why are you coming at me now? Exactly. I'm already obligated. You know.
Right.
And so yeah, it's always significant. You take us to the middle of something. Mm-hmm. You know, trying to do something business, trying to do something this, and it's like you get halfway there, and then everything changes up. Mm. So like I said, so now, you know, what choice you gonna make?
Yeah.
Well, you made the choice. They got you in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, that's why he was mad at them about when he took it to Middle Lake. Remember, he said, "You forgot the loaves." Mm. I already showed you the loaves. Mm. You should, if you'd understood the loaves, you would understand now what to do. You know, you scared. You should have already showed you.
Go to sleep.
Yeah, go to sleep with me.
Yeah,
Going to the other side because I already said it.
But he read. We already said I'll meet you on the other side. So you forgot the law. You didn't understand then.
Right.
You know what? And so now, here come the next test. Here come the next level.
Mm.
And you're not even using the fundamental things that you learned at the lower level.
Right.
So how you gonna go to a higher level?
Right.
But you're not even comprehending, like I said, same thing with the parable. You don't understand the first parable. That was easy.
Right.
Now we at the fig tree, and I'm like, what the hell is the fig tree? You know.
Right?
You know.
Go back and look.
So yeah, it's always same. You know, it's the same thing we've been talking about. We were saying a lot of the same thing about. And we were talking about the fellowship, man. If you're involved in something going on with you, and we connected. Not my word. You know, man, something going on with me. I gotta call my brother, man. What's going on, man? Something in my spirit is like something telling me that something's going on.
Mm.
You know, like the foot washing.
Mm.
You know, one of us up in here.
We need to create something.
Yeah,
We need to get in the middle.
one of us need to get clean. You know.
This is beautiful.
We still online?
Yeah, we're still online.
Oh, okay.
No, this is good. So we pretty much gonna wrap it up, but I wanted to you know say something in closing for me. Just a nation of priests is what the Father called us, and these are the priests, you know, making sure that they are judging righteously by the Torah, by what's written, and informing on the difference between what's holy and what's profane, what's holy, what's set apart, and what's opposite of that. And you know, the Father gives every essential detail to be holy. I mean, there's no excuse. I wanted to read something because I brought it up before. It's Isaiah 29. Isaiah 29, starting at verse 9. This is CJB. If you make yourself stupid, you will stay stupid. If you blind yourself, this is just confirmation of what the Most High has revealed. If you blind yourselves, you will stay blind. You are drunk, but not from wine. You are staggering, but not from strong liquor. For Adonai has poured over you a spirit of lethargy, like a deep sleep, stupor, right? He has closed your eyes, that is the prophets, and covered your heads, that is the seers. For you, this whole prophetic vision has become like the message in a sealed up scroll. When one gives it to someone who can read and says, please read this, he answers, I can't because it's sealed. If the scroll is given to someone who can't read with the request, please read this, he says, I can't read. So, like the Most High has revealed, it's the spirit that draws, and it's the spirit that gives life. And it's the spirit that allows us to get that revelation, that understanding of what it is to be holy and what it means to not be holy. And so we want to make sure we have opportunity to get cleansed, so we can have that cleanse purification in the blood. That purification is in our innermost thoughts, our heart, right, our mind, and then it flows out of our mouths and speaks that positive energy into existence. That's all I wanted to say to wrap it up. Anybody else got anything before we close out in prayer? Okay. Oh yeah, I'm full. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for your holy Shabbat, your peaceful Shabbat, Heavenly Father, when your spirit is most closest, we can draw nigh. Heavenly Father, get that knowledge, that understanding, and that wisdom to know how to apply your word to our everyday life. Heavenly Father, it is you every day that we worship and glorify and give honor and praise and thanks to, Heavenly Father. Thank you for each and every last one of us here whom you use as vessels, Heavenly Father, to spread the truth of your word in love, Heavenly Father. Thank you for this family. Thank you for this fellowship. Thank you for this day once again, Heavenly Father. We can't thank and praise you enough, Heavenly Father. Be with each and every last sister and brother as they go to their destination. But please do not dismiss us from your presence, Heavenly Father. I thank you for today, your confirmation, your living word, Heavenly Father. It's life to me. Heavenly Father, we ask these and all other blessings in your darling Son, Yeshua's name, Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Shalom, shalom. Hope y'all online was edified. We'll see y'all next week. Oh my gosh.